Hi guys, welcome to my kitchen. Today we are going to be making blueberry and apricot cobbler. A little note before we get started, I am filming this by myself because Nathan's at work, so please excuse any weird kind of wonky camera angles, but yeah, let's go ahead and give you this recipe. I am going to get started off by basically breaking up what we're going to be doing today into two steps. We're going to be doing our filling and then we're going to be doing our topping, and it actually makes perfect sense to break these up into two parts because the filling is actually going to be starting to cook while we do the topping. So this way it'll just make it a little bit easier to not get too overwhelmed with things. So I'm just going to scan over our ingredients here really quickly, and I will start giving you the amounts for our filling only because I don't want to overwhelm you with all of these ingredients and the same ingredient that's going to be in different amounts. So I'm going to go over the filling ingredients and then we'll get started on that. And then once we're doing the topping, we'll go through the ingredients for that. So stay tuned. Okay, so to get started, the first thing, of course, for our cobbler is going to be our fruit, which today is apricots and blueberries. You can really change up your fruit here. You just want to have approximately 2 pounds of whatever fruit you are using. We're going to be using a cup of regular sugar, which mine is organic cane sugar, and then a cup of brown sugar. We're also going to be using 4 tablespoons of softened butter for the fruit filling. And we're going to be using the zest and juice of 1 lemon, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. We're also going to be using some spices here to give it a nice warmth and depth. We're going to be doing 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of ginger, half a teaspoon of nutmeg. We're also going to be adding in 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar into there. So that is our ingredients. Let me go ahead and wash my fruit here and then we'll get started. Hey guys, welcome back. So my fruit is in the oven. It's only been in there about 5 minutes, but I did want to go ahead and get started on the topping. So I'm gonna try to change where I have the camera, which might be interesting. So please excuse me if you happen to be looking at my dirty dishes. But before I do that, I did want to go ahead and give you the measurements on what our filling, or not our filling, what our biscuit topping is going to be. So we're going to be using 2 cups of all-purpose flour, half a cup of regular sugar, and half a cup of brown sugar. We're also going to be using 2 tablespoons of baking powder to make it rise and make it puffy. We're going to be doing 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ginger, and 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. You know, I like to really incorporate my seasoning and my flavors in multiple layers of anything that I'm cooking or baking, just so that it gets basically throughout the whole thing. And I really like that nice warmth that the spices give to the biscuit topping. We're also going to be using 8 teaspoons of butter. You want this to be cold out of your fridge. I will admit mine is a little bit less than cold because it has been sitting out since I've been filming and it got a little bit warm, but I'm still going to use it. And then we have a 1/4 cup of hot water on standby for getting it to the right consistency. So I'm going to change where you're looking at me from and we'll be right back. Hi guys, welcome back. I hope that that is a good seat for you. I'm not quite sure, but we're gonna roll with it for now. So we're gonna start getting our ingredients together, and we're gonna start off with the flour, which, as I mentioned, we are doing 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And we're just gonna be pulsing this in our food processor. Now, if you don't have a food processor, that is perfectly fine. Really, this is actually the first time that I'm trying it in my food processor, but I truly do not enjoy the process of handling flour and butter until it gets to the right consistency, and the food processor is a bit of a quicker way to get it there. So that's why I'm using this today as opposed to just using my hands. But you can absolutely use just your hands if that is what you have, or if you have something like a pastry cutter at home, or the really old school technique of 2 butter knives, that kind of thing. We're gonna really just mix all of our ingredients together in here at once, make it super simple, basically just like the fruit topping was, where we're just mixing everything together at the same time. That makes it so much easier, and even though there's technically kind of a lot of ingredients, it just makes it faster, makes it go better. So we're gonna add in our spices now, which again is 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, a 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, and 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. And then I'm going to add in the baking powder, which is 2 tablespoons of baking powder. And then we're going to put in my butter, which is 8 tablespoons cut into basically pat sizes, tablespoon sizes. And then at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and pulse this until I get it to that kind of like heavily grainy kind of consistency. And then we'll start adding in our water as needed. So plug your ears for a second while we pulse this. So quick and easy. It's already got that like nice sandy consistency. There's kind of different size clumps of butter in here, but not really like big pieces of butter, so that's good. Judging by the consistency, I'm pretty confident we're going to use our whole 1/4 cup of liquid here. So we're just going to go ahead and pulse it until that combines. Okay, so it smells really good. I can smell the sugar in there, but it's not combining quite enough. So I'm gonna use another approximately 1/4 cup of water. So hold tight while I grab that. Went to the wrong place to grab the water. Okay. So another 1/4 cup, and this one I am going to add just like half of it, and then see what our consistency is looking like. Okay, we're getting there. It's still not quite there, so I'm gonna go ahead and add in the rest. See if we get it to the right place. Okay, it is starting to come together and form a dough. So we're gonna let it go at this point. So we ended up using half a cup of water as opposed to a quarter cup, but just start with the quarter cup because you want to really gauge it by how it's looking and feeling at the time that you're using it. I'm going to transfer this into a bowl because our next step is to go ahead and get it on top of the cobbler. And in doing that, I want to have easy access to it. So I'm just going to scoop this out. It smells really good. It kind of smells like cookies, like the way that cookies smell like sugary and sweet and delicious, and the dough feels really good too. So, okay. Now we're good on that. Time frame here, we're actually pretty good to go ahead and pull our cobbler out of the oven. So I'm going to do that, and I'm gonna put you guys here, and hopefully from there you will be able to see what I'm doing. This is where you can tell that I'm not an actual YouTuber. Okay. Now after we get this guy out of the oven, we're going to take the foil off and we're going to leave the foil off. So you're just going to take this off and leave it off. This would be a fantastic time to, before you put your cobbler on, just give this another mix to make sure that everything is mixing in there. Okay, looks beautiful. Now we're gonna take our topping, and I've got my handy dandy, not ice cream scoop, it's a cookie scoop, and I'm just gonna go ahead and plop these on top. I like using the cookie scoop for this. It's a medium-sized one, it's not my smallest one, but I like using the cookie scoop for this because it gives it that cobbled look, which cobbler is supposed to have. So it helps me to not just dump this all over the top and not actually have fruit peeking through the way that you're supposed to. So that's why I like to use it, but you can just use the back of a spoon, or you can just plop it on top, because really it's your cobbler and doesn't matter what it looks like as long as it tastes good. So, and obviously these are going to get bigger as they are in the oven. Get the last little bit on there. And then the last thing that you can do, which is actually completely optional, but you can add a coarse sugar on top of this to give you another textural element. So like this is turbinado sugar, and I'm just gonna add a little bit so that it kind of like bakes in but gives you that extra crunch from the sugar. And then we're gonna put this back in the oven for another 45 minutes. And then at that time, when everything is all beautiful and done, I will have you guys come back and show you what it looks like. All right, guys, so this is our finished product. So it didn't exactly cobble. I mean, it looks kind of like cobble, but fruit's really kind of only peeking through on the sides here. But it actually, when I took it out of the oven just about 5 minutes ago, it was bubbling up on the sides, and the top has a nice little crust, but you can still feel that underneath it's nice and doughy and light. So this is going to be really delicious, topped with some ice cream. Hopefully you enjoyed this recipe, and if there are any questions that you have, as always, just leave me a comment. Bye-bye.